Hi, this is Cindy Cochran. Welcome to the archives of the Cindy Cochran Show. Remember, I'm live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11, right here on irlonestar.com. You can be a part of the show by calling 936-647-3776. Also, please visit my Facebook page, The Cindy Cochran Show. And let me say a special thanks to our show sponsors, BK Meyer Photography. If you would like to be a sponsor of The Cindy Cochran Show, contact me at cindy@irlonestar.com. Enjoy! Good morning, everybody. It is Monday. Oh boy, it's Monday. And don't we love Mondays? Now, you can either love them or hate them. And that depends on how you want the day to go. But on the Cindy Cochran Show, which you're listening to right now, we're going to love it because we're here. We're breathing in and out. Nobody's name was in the obit this morning. And so you got a chance to do something with this day. So I'm so excited that you joined us. And I've got some really special guests. Special because, I haven't seen one of them. Normally he's here on Monday that even when you hear his voice, you go like, oh, it must be Monday, because Lieutenant Bob Berry with the Conroe PD is here with us. And then we have the very special outrageous, Family Life. Yeah. It's Family Life, right? Family Life.
Correct, yeah. Family Life Minister.
Family Life Minister, yeah. I was making sure there wasn't another word in there before I got to minister. And anyway, Jeff Phillips from the Conroe Church of Christ, and he is someone who is just, you got to hear him to believe him. I mean, that's what I feel about him. He's just someone that is so transparent, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe how transparent this guy is. He will tell you anything and everything about himself and his kids. And yesterday he did speak. He was Steve Yates was out, so he was in there preaching and pitching, and it was wonderful. And everybody loves when Jeff gets up to talk, and you just see especially all the younger people, the millennialists, just love Jeff. They feel like he's right with them, and even older people like Bob and I.
What? Mature.
They're not old. They're right. Well seasoned.
Yeah, but I can't say the mature part. I can only say older part.
They are well seasoned.
I haven't matured yet. Okay. So anyway, we were sitting in church. I was sitting next to your family.
Yeah.
And your youngest son,
Trenton,
your youngest son, Trenton, was right there next to us. And then you started telling stories on the kids. It was just so funny when he starts telling stories. He says, I asked permission. I'm getting ready to tell the story. And you look over, and the kid either's just sliding down in the seat, or he's going like, what? I never said
serious
that.
Embarrassment.
Yeah. Yes. I love when you tell a story and you're telling somebody, and your kid that you're talking to, he goes, I never said that. What are you talking about? It just blows your whole story.
That's a great preacher story.
Yes, exactly.
I do that with Lori.
You do?
Yeah.
That is so mean. Because I learned better not to ever, when Sam was telling a story, and I'm going like, that story was 10 years ago. It is exaggerated at an exponential. It's just like, oh, man, that story is nothing like it started out with. And I don't say anything till afterwards. I said, why did you say that? And he goes, that's how it's happened. I went, I think you're remembering that wrong. He said, well, you don't ever say that one. I said, I would never do that, honey. I would never make you look bad. And remember, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Because you've done, he's done stuff to me like...
We play hard sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great little game that married people play. But I love, because Jeff, yesterday you were talking about how marriage is hard, and it was so funny. It wasn't a revelation or epiphany I felt like you had, but it was just, and everybody else was going like, duh, yeah, it is. But Jeff talks about it, and he says there's sometimes he doesn't like his wife, sometimes his wife doesn't like him. We can never imagine that. But it's so good to hear somebody else say it. So you drop your shoulders and go, oh, good, somebody else is going through the same thing. And, that's what we love about you, Jeff. You just, you tell it like it is in your own life. And most of the time it's like our life as well. And you do move around the stage a lot. You have good stage presence. Good stage presence, Jeff.
And some people, they put the preacher, the minister, or the policeman, they put us on a pedestal saying that we don't have any problems, we don't have any issues, we never struggle with stuff. Mm-hmm. That's a fallacy, man. We're all just people just trying to figure out how to do life.
That's right. And when you've learned something and you've gotten good at it, it's good to share. But as you share it with the idea that you went through a lot of wrongs before you got to the right. And it's good. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. We want you to be able to join in. Anything that we say that's controversial and you don't agree with, please call in. We love that kind of call. 936-647-3776. And we'll tell you where you're wrong. But anyway, if you want to call in, please be able to call in. We've got a lot of variations on maybe the same subject matter. And it's about what everybody's talking about, and you've just been deluged, you've been just inundated, submerged in all the stuff that's gone on. And it's sad, and it does kind of draw us in, those who watch too much news. It does draw you in and make you feel like nothing else is going on in the world. But because we have these experts here in their field, I do want to ask, because Lieutenant Bob, very connected with what's going on, and they have to be within the world and not just in local Conroe, because the things that are going on in the world, they have to go to school on and figure out, I got to learn how to do some things maybe a different way, because it is a different world. But and then Jeff is going to talk to us about, how do you pray for your enemies? Jesus said, pray for their enemies, right?
Matthew 5:44, I just pulled up my phone here. Jesus says, but I tell you to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. I'd love to rip that page out of my Bible.
Isn't that the truth?
I'd love to, but unfortunately, I don't have the authority to do so.
But I forget to do that in our prayers. We pray about daily things. We pray about people and stuff like that. But I forget that one thing, I should be praying for my enemies. And I remember there's a time that I would pray for Satan. I would pray for him, like, change your mind. Somebody help him. Something happened to change his mind. And I think we forget to pray for him as well. But one time I wanted to do a billboard for Spring Woodlands that said, Satan hates this church. And so when I put that forward as a suggestion to do that, the preacher said, I don't want to do anything to draw attention to him or glorify him in any way, like on a billboard. And I went, okay, but I thought that would be a good idea, that Satan hates his church. So anyway, I learned my lesson. I've got a caller on the line. And caller, what is your name and what would you like to talk about?
Lou Pittswell. Lou Pittswell, and I've got a question now. You're talking about prayer, and you know what I pray for every day when I drive through Conroe is to get a gall dang green light when I get to the intersection.
Isn't it good to have simple
What my question is,
if you slow down a little bit,
the preacher guy, because I do know how to pray, and I just say, "Oh, baby, make that light green."
Yeah.
But this question is for Bob, Mr. Lieutenant Bob Berry. Please expound on the timing of lights, and also that left turn flashy yellow thing. That's new. Boy, that's new.
Oh, how do you treat that?
Turn left on a flashing yellow like at Wilson Road. That's some stuff. So speak to that. Speak to that.
Thank you,
and
caller.
I will hang up and listen to Bob Berry explain the timing of traffic lights. It affects all of our lives deeply. And then you can talk about shooting people later.
That's a great question. Actually, I'd love to hear the answer to that as well.
But caller, that they particularly wait for you to get in your car, and then they start the let's time it where it drives him crazy. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Actually, I think somebody has planted something into his car. And so it knows when he's coming down the street that it's him, and so therefore there's a lot of different things that can happen.
Who does the timing?
In the city, within the city of Conroe, we actually do that. The city of Conroe actually has a part of Public Works that actually does that with them and times them and that kind of thing. It's done with two or three things. A lot of times when you see on the streets, on the poles, you see a camera, and you think that's a camera that is going to take your picture,
right.
or if you have a wreck or something like that, there's video to it, and it's not. It's actually a sensor, and what it does is it actually counts the cars that are in there, and it's timed by the amount of cars that are waiting to turn or go to the next intersection, and so that's part of it. The other part of it is it's also done with the amount of time. Because of say 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning, where the traffic's really heavy,
where the most traffic is,
right. Yeah. And same thing in the afternoon from say 4 to 7 or so. The same thing is going to happen, and so it will change the different things at different times depending on the time of the day and the amount of cars that are sitting there. So there's a lot of things that are involved with that, but at the same time, it seems like you never can get a break. But
I'm saying not, amen right now.
Well, it's not. It's not that we're trying to do that. We don't have any red light cameras or anything anymore here in town. So
that's right.
So we don't have that. You can't blame us on that one anymore.
My bride may or may not have gotten some of those tickets.
See, I always ask. I said, "Now, are you sure it's okay now? Not that it's okay now, but that those cameras aren't working because I still see cameras.
It's a sensor."
That's the sensor.
Yeah.
Okay. And, they've got us fooled. That's so brilliant to put it in the same kind of camera that looks like they're going to flash you. Okay.
If you look at the ones that are, if you pull up to an intersection and you look across the intersection and you see kind of a long, like a piece of pipe shape kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And when you see that across the intersection, it's not for red lights. It's for actually counting the cars.
Okay, but the person who is actually at the computer... Right, they're at a computer and they're timing. They put in the time for that.
Oh, it's all computerized.
It's all computerized, so there's no person.
No person doing that.
No.
Okay, well that makes me feel a little bit better. So there's not like Jack had a bad day at like. And I know
here comes Cindy.
Yeah,
yes.
I gotta get her.
See, I got a better philosophy because I catch every red light. I am the king of traffic stops, so I get stuck in everything. And so the local joke in my family is that. I'll probably take 5 more minutes to get where I'm going because I will catch every red light. And so my bride, Janae, says it's because God's trying to teach me patience because I'm not very patient because if I know where I'm going, I want you to get out of my way so I can get there.
Yes.
And so when I stop the traffic lights, especially when the kids are in the car, I'll say, change that red light monkey. And they're like, what's that going on? I was like, there's a monkey that lives inside of the traffic light. And so I'm telling the monkey to change the light. So sensors or monkeys, I don't know, but they're not in favor of me.
I really can't tell you anything about the people that are doing it. I'm not sure about monkeys. I'm not sure about that, but
but someone has gone and studied the traffic pattern,
That's
and
right.
so then they go back and input that. So okay, caller. So there's not a conspiracy against you. So don't be shooting up the lights or anything like that. It's just the way you drive. You have to leave early. That's all I can say is you're going to have to do that. But now, in one of the things I want to ask you. And then we're going to change gears right now.
Okay.
Talking about, and Jeff, anytime you want to chime in on this, your segment's going to be coming up like at the half hour. We're going to talk about praying for your enemies. But when we have someone that is doing something weird and is out of the ordinary, and it looks like this kind of stuff that we need to report to the police, this is a very hard thing to do. It's so hard for that neighbor of the Malik and Farouk, very hard for them to say, I'm going to call on them, but because if they were afraid they might have some kind of, it might be a ramification against them, but they were afraid and they wouldn't do it. If someone calls into the police, they say, what's the Conroe Police Department's number? Okay, I'm going to call this. They send them to a different department? They say, I have something to report about possible terrorism. Who do they send them to?
It would probably start in the local.
Okay,
area.
and so they would start, and someone would interview that person. Would they call them to come in, or would they just talk to them over the phone?
It would probably be best to come in and talk to someone, and it would go from us to right up the chain of police levels.
Okay,
like from the city.
All the way to federal, or would they just stay?
Yeah, it could go all the way to federal,
okay.
Depending on what it is. If we run across somebody and they leave a package or a bag or a briefcase or something, and it's in an odd place and it's there, it should look kind of suspicious. Mm-hmm. And so what you're looking at there is you need to call that immediately and let us come look at it and go from there.
I have seen those. I mean, I've seen when someone is called on a package, and what people go through, the police go through, and getting everybody cleared enough away in case it is something, and all that, and how disruptive that is. But I think that it's getting so weird, and our politically correctness is kind of, going away a little bit because we feel like we have got to, if we see something, say something kind of thing.
I think the division of that is there's two things. Is it your neighbor that you don't like because they may be male, female, black, white, purple, whatever? It might be something that you just don't like, mm-hmm. or is it something that you really think is suspicious?
Right.
In there, they could be in there.
The activity,
growing marijuana in there.
Eventually, surprise.
It's going to start.
Oh, it's
smelling
only
it.
marijuana.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a difference between not really liking
mm-hmm.
somebody versus somebody that's really suspicious.
Right.
When it's suspicious or anything else that's suspicious, call us. We'll come and look at it, and if we need to, we'll move on to the next level up to see what it takes for us to fix that.
Well, what I want to talk about also with you next, and we're going to try and get Jimmy the C on the phone and talk about some sports if we can, and if we can talk about how we, once this all has happened, this has all happened to us, and now we're having, like the Liberty University president saying, start carrying your guns. We have the Arizona guys that just start packing, protect yourselves, and those kind of things that are going on. I want to talk to you about that in just a minute when we get back on the Cindy Cochran Show. And remember, if you want to join in with Jeff Phillips and Lieutenant Bob Berry, please call 936-647-3776, and we'll be glad to talk to you. All right, we'll be right back on the Cindy Cochran Show.
The Cindy Cochran Show. You ain't heard nothing yet.
At Jazzy Junk, volunteers reclaim, restore, and recycle. Jazzy Junk is a non-profit resale storefront where you will discover wonderful, unique finds at very affordable prices on furniture, antiques, books, art, home decor, and more. When you shop Jazzy Junk, you support New Danville, a community for adults with developmental disabilities. We receive new donations daily, so plan a visit to Jazzy Junk today to find that perfect item or gift. Our motto is here today, gone today. So remember to hurry in and shop often for the best selection. Jazzy Junk is located in the outlets at Conroe on League Line Road and I-45 North. Call 936-441-4500 or visit our website, jazzyjunk.org. That's JUNQUE for more information and store hours.
I'm Lieutenant Bob Berry with the Conroe Police Department, reminding you that drinking and driving do not mix. Drinking and driving causes an alcohol-related fatality every hour in the United States. Stay sober and stay alive.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
In a world where everyone with a smartphone is a photographer, unique images still stand out in local newspapers, magazines, and on the internet. Writer and photographer Brad Meyer has gained a reputation for innovation and quality, specializing in an editorial approach to portraits and event photography. For information, visit bkmeyer.com or call 281-221-4812.
The Cindy Cochran Show. Even if these walls could talk, They couldn't get a word in edgewise.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show. Thank you so much for joining us. You can go to my Facebook, The Cindy Cochran Show, anytime you want to, and find out what's coming up the next day, or find out what our guests are going to be talking about. Also, if you want to talk to me during the show, sometimes I may not be paying the best attention, but Richard Schischler, our engineer and owner of the whole thing, he is always on top of things and right there listening to you. We've got someone on the phone, though. We will be getting back to Bob Berry, and of course, you guys, Jeff and Bob, y'all can talk anytime you want to, because we're going to talk sports, and this is a guys thing. I'm not trying to be at all, and it's just I love finding out if the Texans won. I love seeing highlights, but that's about it. And as I was telling,
you're outnumbered.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
He has to stay up to do the show because he needs to be sleeping. He's doing night shift, so he's having to be,
Oh, my goodness.
he should be sleeping now. But okay, so I know we weren't. I wasn't with you last Monday or the Monday before, so I was so mad because the Texans had won, and my brother-in-law, Carolyn's husband, Charles, he likes the Cowboys, and he has to try and split the difference of his loyalty because of where he lives. Everybody likes the Cowboys.
We'll pray for him.
In Lubbock, and then the Texans. So everybody was real happy, and then they lost yesterday. Was it yesterday
They
they
did.
lost? And
Yeah.
all those people that left church early, Jeff, that's what they get.
That's right.
You should have stayed
Lost to
and
the
prayed.
Bills. It was a
You
good
should have
game, though.
Stayed and prayed more. I didn't see anything about it. How did it go? How did JJ do?
JJ didn't. Well, I'm never going to say he didn't do well because he always does well, but I don't believe he got a sack yesterday. They contained him, but of course, the defense from the beginning of the season decided to show up, and that's the defense has been playing the last month. They've been playing lights-out defense the last month, which that was the defense I thought it was going to be the defense they would have the whole year.
Right.
But yesterday they couldn't stop the run. I was like, oh, good grief, here these guys are back again. I was like, let's not hope this is going to go on for another 2 or 3 games like it did last time, because now they cannot afford to start losing any more games. The only good thing that came out of that game is that Pittsburgh blew out the Colts last night, so you're still tied for first, but you still got to take care of business because you've got to beat the Colts head-to-head because the Colts hold the tiebreaker since the Colts have already beaten the Texans once this year.
So you're saying we're still tied for first?
We are.
For first? It's such a hard word to come out of my mouth
in the
because we never
league,
get to
that's
say
right.
that. For first?
You can keep losing and be tied for first. Isn't that cool?
That's
I
so
know.
I
It's
like
crazy.
that.
But Jacksonville's coming on strong, too, man. They looked pretty good yesterday, didn't they?
Oh, that was a wild game, even though Tennessee won. Those two teams put up a ton of points yesterday, but it was kind of good that Tennessee got the win because you'd have Jacksonville a game behind you, and that's all you need is another team right there that you're going to have to fight off, which there's still 4 games left, and you still may have to fight them off if the Texans keep losing.
So we only have
hope
4 games. We only have 4 games left before we play for the Super Bowl
Playoffs.
For the playoffs for the Super Bowl. Oh boy, because it's going to be a great. It's going to be a great entertainment for the Super Bowl. So I just want to make sure I don't miss that part and the commercials. I'm such a lame
I'm about to say,
Texan
what
fan.
entertainment are you talking about?
The halftime show?
Yeah, the halftime show.
Oh, you mean when all the guys go out to make beer runs to fill up again for the second half? Okay.
That might be about accurate.
I think you're right. But how about those University of Houston Cougars? Wow. Are they great or what?
That is great. They looked great Saturday, and they're on to a big bowl game to play a big school, Florida State, which is good because, it's not the U of H of, 20, 30 years ago. Now U of H is considered a small program, which before it really wasn't.
Sad.
Now,
I know.
They'll get some national exposure and hopefully beat a big school, which I believe that they should be able to beat Florida State. And that'll get them, more exposure, which more exposure gets you more recruits.
Right,
you know,
right.
that's what they need.
That is so awesome. Well, Jimmy, I'm going to let you go back to sleep. You're so great. I was telling Jeff, I said, you should hear this guy. He knows this stuff upside downward. I think you're so good at what you do, and we appreciate you so much. So thank you for staying up and talking to us. Now go get some sleep. Okay.
All right, have a good week.
We'll talk to you next Monday. All right,
All
Jimmy the C. Okay. Listen, guys, we've got a lot to talk about today, and once again, Lieutenant Bob, after we've learned about the timing of the lights, there's no conspiracy there, and then if somebody wants to call in and tell you something that they think they've seen that may be suspicious, and what kind of questions are you guys trained to ask those people?
If there's an object that's there, like we were talking about earlier,
right,
with a suitcase or whatever it might be, you hear the same thing in the airports. Make sure you have your right luggage.
Yeah, if you see something sitting there,
and that kind of thing, where it's at, what it may look like. Is there anybody else around it? Is anybody else looking around there? When it comes to this next door neighbor is suspicious, they just need to come to the office or call, and again, tell them what it is. Describe exactly what it is that you're suspicious about.
Well, if I was doing something suspicious, which a lot of times it probably looks like I am because of just weird things, carrying the garbage can in the back of my trunk, not knowing it was there, all the way to the studio, and nobody ever say anything. They were pointing and they were honking at me, but they didn't call in there saying somebody's carrying a garbage can. But if I was doing something strange or weird, and my neighbor was scared of what I was doing, and they said something to the police, I would be so glad that somebody's looking out for stuff, and I can explain it, what this was or why I was doing that. That's fine, and I think in this time right now that people being afraid to say something because they think they're going to be called a racist, or that they're going to be considered, someone who's so politically incorrect. But I think that if it's just like the NSA listening to me, they can listen to all my conversations or anything like that, and I'm not trying to hide anything, or I don't care. They can go through my computer and all that, because I'm not trying to keep anything from anybody. I understand the privacy. People are worried about the privacy part, but if you're trying to hide something, then you really are concerned about the privacy part. There's something, or if they're going to use it against you, I understand that. If it's used against you, then you don't want that. But that's how I feel about it. But I know that we've got politicians that are just like going
But you're also
crazy.
missing the point, Cindy. It's not about what you're doing today. It's about what you're doing tomorrow, too. And whoever's making the rules can change the rules on you tomorrow. So say what you're doing today is perfectly fine, but next year, for the next president, he believes something or she believes something that's completely different. And now you're in trouble because they made a new law because of what you were doing. You were streaming music on this type of thing, and you were stealing this. Now it's considered stealing.
Right.
So, that's why.
Well, but still.
That's why privacy is important in that aspect, because,
that's why I said the caveat is if they use it if they're using it against people for political reasons and things like that, like the IRS, we're shutting down a lot of conservative groups, or not taking so much time for them to be able to get the licensing for what they want to do, is that is totally wrong, because that's going against what I think that we believe. But if they feel like, I don't think it's not listening to everybody. It's when they're suspicious and they've got a reason to listen to them, that listening to them, I don't think is a bad thing. And that may make me sound very naive and all that, but I just think, like, if it's to help protect us and it's part of our security, then they do it. You think that's wrong, right? You think that's...
Well, I think it's a slippery slope.
I do too.
It's really dangerous, especially with the current like the no-fly list. That's pretty interesting to me, because there's no due process with that fly list.
Right.
And then they're also, like, our constitutional rights are being almost taken away from us in the blind sense if we look at the way they want to do the no-fly list deal.
Well, especially when you find out there's 75 people in the Homeland Security offices that are on the no-fly list. How did that happen?
Yeah.
And they just found that out. Like, what? Ted Kennedy was on the no-fly list, and they didn't know how he got on there.
Well, I listened to part of Obama's speech last night about gun control a little bit.
I was really upset by that, by the way.
Were you really?
I was ready for the football game.
Yeah.
And when that came on, I was like, wait a second. I thought I left it on the football channel. And
well, in my effort to be politically correct, I will not tell you all the thoughts that I had on that. But he did say one thing that I did agree with.
That may be it.
Just one thing. But he said that if you're on a no-fly list, then you shouldn't be able to get a gun.
Yeah. Well,
and I thought, well, that kind of makes a little bit of sense.
Isn't it like
to
a
me.
big duh? That's such a big duh. Like, okay, so you narrowed it down to that.
And you're talking to a gun owner.
Right.
You're talking to a hunter and a fisherman over here. So I was like, all right, I kind of agree with that a little bit.
I mean, to me, that's kind of like a common sense thing that says, but wait a minute, you'll beyond that. But who's going to make that distinction of who goes on the no-fly list? Because this guy said his mom was on there. She never done anything wrong, but she'd never be able to get a gun if she wanted to because she's on that list. So the prosecution of that person who's on the no-fly list, there's no due process for them to get out of it, or to be able to say, hey, you guys have got the wrong person. I've never done anything wrong, which everybody says.
The best is always the circumstances where the names are the same. And and that's common even in the police world. Is this happened actually to my cousin? He was visiting Florida, and the man by his name was wanted for like some serious crimes, and he was with his family, and he gets arrested like in front of his family.
That's not a good situation.
And it was just more of like, oh, sorry, it's a mix-up on the names.
Yeah.
And even though he had identification on him that was for Texas, wasn't for Florida, it was still, that's the response. And especially with the no-fly list, people take that stuff they take it serious for a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, they're going to take it even to the more extreme in the future now, since everyone's
I have to do background checks for all my, 'cause I deal with children and minors, and so I have to do a ton of background checks. So the first background check I had, there was a guy in Iowa with my same birth date and my same name, but a different Social Security number, but he was a child molester. And so it popped up.
Lovely.
And they're like, so what's your social number? And I was like, oh, here it is. And like, okay, you're not that guy. I was like, I've never even been to Iowa.
Fleeting moments that they thought that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, too, is I wanted to tell Bob that I think that what has transpired, has been interesting for people to look at the police a little bit different, maybe, because who were the first responders? They came in and they went in there and shut it down. And so, the Black Lives Matter people said they were upset by all this Paris thing that happened and this, because it's taking the attention away from what they were trying to get. They just built up enough, agenda to try and get things going. But this has kind of backfired on all that, because you see why the police are so important and how quickly they worked, how quickly they responded, and that they got themselves organized. And that was a lot of chaos I watched unfold in Paris. And then for them to find, to find the people. And then in San Bernardino, same thing. It was just like so much stuff going on, so many places they could have gone. They thought they left already, and there they were still at the house. And for them to figure all that out that quick and then contain them, that was amazing. So I think a lot of kudos and a lot of good PR happened, and for a bad thing, but it was good for the police department.
Take, for example, the San Bernardino deal last week. All of our officers here in the city of Conroe and other agencies within the state and across the U.S. are training all of their officers for the people that come in, like schools, with guns or whatever, those kind of things. We're actually taking classes for that, and they're training us how to go through these buildings and how we do this and how we do that. And so the officers are actually being trained on that, and we are tightening up what we're doing. We're tightening up our training. We're tightening up our things that we're looking at that are suspicious. And so it is getting tight.
I love that, and that's our next show next Monday. I want you to talk about how you walk into a building and what you go for first and what you're looking for. We got to go to a break right now, but I'm telling you, this is going to be so interesting to figure out. After you watch the news, you see all this happen, you get so angry, and then Jesus said, you got to pray for those guys. You got to pray for them. And so Jeff Phillips is going to talk to us about that, and we'll be right back after this. You're listening to Cindy Cochran Show. You want to jump in on something, 936-647-3776. We'll be right back.
The Cindy Cochran Show. Real reality radio.
In a world where everyone with a smartphone is a photographer, unique images still stand out in local newspapers, magazines, and on the internet. Writer and photographer Brad Meyer has gained a reputation for innovation and quality, specializing in an editorial approach to portraits and event photography. For information, visit bkmeyer.com or call 281-221-4812.
Lone Star Internet Radio is now bringing you the weekly business hour show each Monday morning at 11 a.m. My name is Rick Schisler, and I will be your host. Each week we will be bringing you local, area, and national business news that you can use. The program will also feature an interview with a local or national business person who will share their own experiences, successes, and failures in operating their businesses. Our show is for anyone who already owns a business, whether they work solo or have employees, and for those who are thinking about starting their own businesses. A bit of information about myself. Again, my name is Rick Schisler, and I am a Silver Fox advisor who has over 40 years' experience as a serial entrepreneur. As a part of our show, I will offer some advice and encouragement on our monthly topic, and I will take your questions by email at rschisler@silverfox.org or call into the station at 936-647-3776. See you on the radio Monday at 11 a.m. for the weekly business hour.
The East Texas Dream Center is in need of your help. We are a nonprofit Christian organization that houses women and children who are trying to get their lives back after being homeless, abused, or addicted. We are conveniently located at 301 South 1st Street, Conroe, Texas, 77301, right here in Montgomery County. Our needs are financial, and every needs of gasoline, cleaning supplies, laundry soap, Lysol, and whatever else God puts in your heart. To help our ladies and children, please consider a donation. You may visit our website at www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Again, so you don't forget, it's www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Donations are tax deductible. Remember what Jesus said, with God, nothing is impossible.
SPCA PetSnap of Montgomery County is a 501c3 all-volunteer-based rescue and adoption organization with a no-kill policy for healthy and adoptable animals. Our goals are fourfold: to rescue and rehabilitate homeless animals, to provide a safe haven for the animals until a suitable adoption or foster care home is found or until they are reunited with their owner, to educate the public about the great need to reduce pet population, which includes the importance of having their pets spayed and neutered, and to further the cause for humane and responsible pet ownership, and to provide a low-cost spay-neuter clinic for people who are unable to afford to spay or neuter their pets otherwise. SPCA PetSnap of Montgomery County encourages you to think adoption first. You can contact us at www.spcaofmc.com.
The Cindy Cochran Show, the most opinionated talk show on radio.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show, and constantly trying to live up to that image of being the most opinionated. You know, it's my opinion, it's my perception, it's my reality. So, but doesn't mean that you have to believe it. But I know a lot of you that sit out there and just wait to see how I think about something before you think about it. No, that's not true. That's Rush Limbaugh. But anyway, I'm just so happy that you're here, and hopefully you just see this as these are people just getting together, and this is what we think, and you may think like it. And if you don't think that way, and you think that we're just totally off the beam, you can always call in. We don't keep you out. And Richard, nobody's going to ask you a question like, well, what do you want to talk about? And then, no, he just puts them straight on the air, and we have to deal with whatever.
There's no filter.
There is no filter here. Boy, they've known that. There's no filter here. Thank you, Bob Berry, for your insight to the things that we talked about, San Bernardino, the lights changing on us and all that. So next Monday, Bob Berry will always be here on Monday. He keeps us safe on Monday, and he's going to talk about how the Conroe Police Department is being trained for things that we've seen unfolding lately.
Critical incident training.
Is that what you call it? Critical incident. Yeah. Yikes. Okay. Critical incident happening or critical incident what? Is it
training?
Okay.
And so what we do,
I was trying to get the acronym CIT.
CIT, and we're trained to how to go into the buildings, what to look for, and that sort of thing.
Okay, I can't wait to have you talk about that next Monday. So you guys stay tuned. Okay, we have a caller. And so now that I've said that we don't know, there's no filter. Okay, caller, what is your name? What is your DNA? Where do you live? What's your phone number? Okay, caller, what is your name?
I'd rather not say.
I knew it.
I'd rather not say. I'm in the witness protection program, and so
we're tracing your phone right now.
I'm trying to keep a very low profile.
Well, then you called the right show because we don't have enough people listening to make a really big.
Yeah, there's nobody listening out there.
Yeah, that's right.
You're just talking to yourself and me. I'm the only one with my computer on.
The only one that understands me is me. Okay.
But when you get into that thing you're about to get into, you deal with turn the other cheek.
Right.
Turn the other cheek. Now, does that mean you're supposed to let them kick the shit out of you?
Okay.
And, did I say shit?
Yes, you did. On air. Oh, my
word.
word. Stop it. You know we've got a rule here. FCC doesn't, oversee this, so it's got to be Mommy Cindy. You're not going to be able to call anymore if you don't talk nice. Okay. So if you think it means that, I think
Is
it's
that
the face.
moment meant to allow them to think about what they're doing, or is that moment just to, make yourself a damn martyr? Oh, God, did I say damn?
Oh, my word.
Damn on them.
But, I'm not going to judge you for what comes out of your mouth. I'm just going to pray for you.
Well, yeah, because love your neighbor is a very serious thing.
Yes, it is.
And
it's hard
very,
to do.
Very serious.
So
you really have to go to a stretch to pull that one off.
No,
right. I think the Jay guy who's celebrating his birthday here in a few days has meant that real seriously, and so I think folks got to take it real seriously. And my question is, I don't have a question.
Well, you did. You asked the question about turning the other cheek.
Turn the other cheek.
And then
okay.
we're going to talk about that.
Turn that into a question, and I'm going to hang up and listen, because if I don't hang up, then I'm going to just blah, blah, blah. through all the
Thank
comments.
you so much for calling. Okay.
That's a great
Bye-bye.
question, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very difficult concept, because we're talking about praying for those who hate you, or pray for those who persecute you. That's a concept that I have a hard time struggling with in my own life, because there's, if people don't like me, I can handle that. Mm-hmm. But if you hate me, then I can't handle that. Mm-hmm. If you're coming in to hurt me or my family, do I just sit there and let that happen? When I was in graduate school, I wrote a paper that no one has read and no one cares about on the just war theory. So is there justification in righteousness and godliness for violence? Mm-hmm. And there are so many different perspectives on that. And one of my main resources was a theologian that probably most of you have not heard of, but I love, is a guy named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And he wrote this book called The Cost of Discipleship. And so what he did was he took Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5-7, and he basically did an exposition on that sermon and said, if you're not willing to be a Christian, then what you're doing is you're taking parts of Jesus' sermon for discipleship and taking them out. So you have to do everything exactly as Jesus has said, including turn the other cheek, including pray for those who hate you and pray for those who persecute you. And so Bonhoeffer was born and raised in Germany in about, I think the late teens or early 1920s. He came to America. He did a bunch of mission work in Harlem, New York. And then when the World War II started ramping up, and Adolf Hitler became in power, and he saw the destruction of the Jews, and he saw all these things that were happening, he decided that in 1939, before Germany invaded Poland, that he was going to go back to Germany. He was going to minister to the people that were there, and he was very passionate about a pacifist type of movement that was going to bless everyone. Well, Bonhoeffer eventually, long story short, was arrested, and he was placed in a concentration camp because he was harboring Jews. He was doing things that were against Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime. And then he was actually executed just a few weeks before his concentration camp was liberated. And he was executed due to his role in the plot and assassination of Adolf Hitler. So we've got a guy here that is saying in Matthew chapter 5 through 7 that we need to turn the other cheek and then we have grace and peace. But it is unequivocal, and it has been very much proven that he played a role in an assassination attempt of Hitler.
Wow.
So how do you navigate that? And so here's what I would say. That as leaders in our community, there is a time for violence, and I hate to say that, but there's a time for protection, but we have to make sure that we're not acting out of anger or a passionate explosion that is not of God. But there's a time to defend, and there's a time to protect our people. I don't think that Dietrich Bonhoeffer in that situation really loved the sentiment of playing a role in assassinating Hitler.
Right.
But there was a portion of him that found protection of his people, protection of his country, and really protection of the ones that he loved. He understood that threat needed to be eliminated. And we can debate all day long, and you can have all these great philosophers come on both sides. But here's what I know. That in the context where Jesus says to pray for those who hate you and to love those who persecute you, it's in Matthew 5:44. I know that God is calling for me to give grace and mercy and not to act out of rash indignation that is not of God. But there is a time to fight. So that's my opinion. But I have to be very careful when I pick that time.
And I think that psychologically, what happens to you when you pray for someone who's so, mean to you, you take ownership of that, and to me, it gives you more control of the situation than being there and being a victim of someone being, mad at you or saying things about your, calling you names or whatever is making you angry, that you are then have to turn around and pray for them. You've done a step that's proactive in a sense, and you're stepping up and being the man and saying, I pray for you. I pray that your heart will change. I pray that someone will come and love you and make you feel different. I pray for, and when you do all that, then you have to look at that person totally different now, because now that person is in your care. Yeah. And so it does make a difference to do that. But to the initial side of that, to get down on my knees and to pray for someone who has been so horrid and so horrible, that it is, but it's a life-changing.
Because my carnal reaction, my visceral reaction to people who have offended me, hurt me, or intend to kill me, really. I mean, we can go there. I mean, is to be violent. I mean, that is my initial reaction. I've got too much testosterone probably running through my veins, but
to survive. And
then sometimes Jesus says to just take a step and then to breathe and to pray. And I know we're fixing to go into a break, but one of the things that I love is that when Jesus goes into the temple and he turns the tables over and he does that bullwhip and he runs everybody out, it's a very violent reaction.
Right.
But it was not something that was, he didn't explode in emotion. He considered it, and then he said, okay, now it's time.
Well, he knew it would make a point, and he knew that it would be remembered, and that was, and it was like righteous indignation in a sense that, like, hey,
and he did it twice. He didn't just do it once; he did it twice.
It made me bond with him. Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry. What?
I've got a question for you right.
Wait a minute.
After the break,
I think this is our. We're not going to a second break. We have talked all the way through, guys.
No.
This is this is it. So, but Richard has given his hand up, and you can ask the question.
Okay. Think about the police officers.
Yeah.
It's a fine line between being a police officer and being a Christian.
Yeah.
We have different things that we do, different things that we look at and how we look at people. And for example, we had a while back, there was a church here in town that was feeding food at one of the parks on a Saturday morning.
Lewis Park?
Yes.
Yep.
And so at that time, during that time that they started with this, all the people that were there day and night were, I say horrible people, prostitutes, drug dealers, drug users, you name it, that were out there. And so one of our jobs is to go out there and make sure that everybody else is safe that wants to come out, where the kids can come out and play.
Yeah.
And so one morning, one of the officers that constantly worked that day, that section every day, and so when he gets there, he sees Saturday morning, he sees this group of about 75 people in the pavilion, and he says, oh, no, this is not going to work. Something's bad going on here.
Yeah.
And so he plows his way through there and finds out that they're feeding breakfast.
Yeah.
And he actually calls me and says, hey, I got a problem here. I'm trying to run these people off, and now they're feeding them. What do I want to do? And so,
what a good problem.
Yeah. So you see the difference of the two sides of the way we look. How does a police officer make that discretion between being a Christian and being somebody that's authoritative?
Well, it's perception, because we have several police officers, not only Conroe, but also we have several HPD officers. I mean, and so you guys see a bunch of things that I can't even imagine. You really do, and you have a bunch of experiences that I can't comprehend. And so I was visiting with a good friend of mine. He's an HPD officer, and he said, you become jaded because of your perception, because everyone that you talk to is either lying, stealing, or wanting to kill you.
Right.
That's your perception. And he said it's hard to go into that mode when I go to work and then come home and not view my wife that way, or not view my kids that way, or even in your analogy, not view a bunch of Christians that want to feed the homeless people that way. I think that, sometimes the reality is that there are bad things, there are evil things, and we have to keep our eyes and our heart open and aware of that. But there's also opportunities for grace. There's also opportunities for redemption. There's also
for good to overcome.
And for good to overcome, for good to overcome evil. Because honestly, if you want to change those communities against, evil, Jesus needs to be in there.
Right.
Jesus needs to be in those communities. And so it's a very delicate line. I don't know if I can answer your question adequately, because if I was that officer in that situation, that would be my immediate reaction of, oh, something bad's fixing to go down here, and I'm gonna drop it off here. But I wear a wristband that was given to me about a month ago. Pray for police. Didn't even know you were going to be here today. So I'm trying to get. So if Conroe, don't give me a ticket if I'm driving around. I got my wristband on. But to give our officers grace too.
Amen.
But they're trying to do the best they can to protect our community and our citizens. And sometimes, their mind needs to switch back to, all right, this is okay.
Take a step. Okay. Well, I love this discussion. I just love this kind of discussion. And the two forces between you guys is great. It's wonderful. We're still on a countdown watch, We're on a countdown watch.
Yeah.
Not for Christmas.
Yeah.
For Star Wars.
Yep.
Okay. And
I know.
there's the new Star Wars plot is cloaked with unprecedented secrecy. This is so funny. So they're just trying to build it. So anyway, so we just have 11 days now. 11 days is the countdown. So anyway, there's so many important things that God has to watch over and things that are going on. This isn't one, Star Wars isn't one of them. But He's got this, and that's what keeps us safe and not to be afraid. Do not be afraid. He doesn't want you to be afraid. He doesn't want you to be timid. He's got this, and He's got a way for you to talk to Him to help you through it. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Jeff Phillips and Bob Berry and Jimmy the C and Richard Schischler. Thank you, guys, for listening to the Cindy Cochran Show. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't go away. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Any comments, suggestions of topics, email me at thecindycochronshow@gmail.com. Also, check out my Facebook page, The Cindy Cochran Show. Join me live Monday through Friday. See ya.